Recording,
Oh shit. No, we weren't live.
but were we
Uh
recording?
no, I don't think so. I'm gonna redo that
Wow.
whole comedy, Jerry. Can I do you want to go along for a ride with me here again? I can't
Yeah,
believe we just
yeah.
did that.
Um,
Damn it. Hey everybody.
well,
Hey
hang on,
Roy in
hang
the
on. I gotta
chat.
I gotta emotionally prepare myself again
I
for the
know.
for the reset. So how much time did we lose? What time is it?
10
Oh, we
minutes.
lost 15 minutes of good material. Well, I
Man.
was late, so we
Yeah.
lost about 12 minutes.
Yeah.
All
Welcome to
right.
another episode of Command Control Power. Apologies to the live listeners for the delay here, as we realized we were a little bit late to start, and then we failed to go live, and
We had a
we
good
just
show,
we
folks.
had a great show. Yeah, Jerry and I
It
had a
was
great show.
it was really cooking there for a
Sorry you
while,
weren't there. That
but
really sucks. Yeah,
through
yeah,
the magic of YouTube, we're going to try to recreate all the fun and frivolity that you missed. It's
exactly.
it's like a stage show, Joe. We can do it
It's
again. We're
we can do it.
professionals.
We got this. We got this. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we
Should
ready?
I talk
Here we
about your
go.
haircut to launch us, or? By
I
the
guess
way, you
that was
gotta.
just for me,
Joe's
me
going
and
to
you
be
only.
doing some visual daily doubles for you that are Jeopardy fans. So you got to watch the YouTube feed, because not only can you see what he's going to be talking about now, but he's got this Peaky Blinders Thomas Shelby haircut going on. He looks very good. He looks very, very handsome,
Thanks,
as
Jerry.
always.
Thanks.
But to see the latest fashion from Joe, you got to tune in.
Jerry's trying to make me feel better for the failure to start the live stream, even though we were
Mm.
doing a show for about 10 or 15
Well,
minutes there.
I've got it in plain letters too, where it says live and it's counting down the time. And of course, did I see that, Joe? No.
Well, here's
So,
another example, a little foreshadowing. Wouldn't it be nice if apps and things would say, "Hey, you guys were meant to be live 15 minutes ago. You're sitting here talking to each other." Maybe pop up a little message that says, "Did someone forget to click the button?" Like
yeah.
you're a computer. Figure it out.
Wow.
Do the
Yeah.
right thing for me. Okay, so here we go. So here's my little rant. All right, I'm just going to dive right back into it. So I'm on a little walk yesterday with my lady, Ashley. We're walking
Mhm.
around the neighborhood, and I see these beautiful flowers. And I say, hey, Ash, just kind of pose over there, stand near these flowers. I'm going to grab a photo. Grab my phone,
Mhm.
press the camera control button. Perfect. Okay, I'm in the camera app, and now I'm leaning, balancing over this flower bed, and I'm pressing the camera control button. I'm snapping some photos, and I glance down.
Mhm.
I see, you can just tell, like, it doesn't look like it's capturing the photo. I wasn't quite sure because it's kind of subtle, right? I don't have the shutter sound turned on, so I wasn't
Mhm.
positive, but I'm looking now. I'm really deliberately watching as I press the button. I don't see any response in the interface. So then I think, well, shoot, let me try the button on screen. I'm pressing the
Mhm.
photo, the actual camera capture button there on screen. No response. Try the volume button, nothing. Okay, all right. Get a little pass here. Let me unlock the phone, relaunch go to the home screen, open the camera app from there.
Yeah.
Open the camera app, and I'm pressing the button there, nothing. Pressing the camera control, nothing. Volume buttons, no response. Okay, so I lock the phone, unlock again, go into the camera, try to take a photo. I mean, here we are. She's posing, we're missing the moment, right? I'm trying to capture a stinking photo with my fully up to date iPhone 15 Pro, camera control,
Like a boss.
Apple. All the marketing material is just like,
Yeah.
worked its way through me. And here I am trying to
You're
use all
all
the
in.
features. I'm
Yep.
all
You got
in,
the
and I
most
can't.
expensive stuff.
That's right. How much money does Apple need from me in order for me to capture a photo reliably, right? This is
Now,
what's
were you going to
going through my
share with
head in
us a little
frustration.
clip? Are you able to
Yeah.
do that
So
through the
I
miracle of
eventually
live
I end
TV?
up I give up because I can't take a damn photo. So I
Mhm.
unlock the phone again. I switch to the video, and I'm like, can I take a stupid video? Right. So here's the
Total
video.
phone fucking fail. I hate the
We're
stupid
going to have to bleep this out,
camera
Joe.
control button. For the record, this is my third attempt at
Well,
taking a
I'm seeing
stupid photo with
pavement.
this
I'm not
stupid
seeing
iPhone
flowers. Wait a minute.
16 Pro.
No, little bit of flowers.
That's
Wow.
there you go. So yeah. So I mean, you
Total
could just
phone fucking fail.
another bleep
I
for you.
hate the stupid camera control button. For the record, this is my third attempt at
Wow.
taking a stupid photo with this stupid iPhone 16 Pro.
There's some memories you could
At the
share
end,
with
I
the
say
family, with the
jerks.
grandchildren someday.
Yeah.
You have little
Yeah.
your grandchild on your knee and
Yeah.
say, here's where Grandpa took some beautiful photographs with Grandma Ashley.
Or tried. Yeah. Well, here's
Yeah.
what I was able to capture. Right. So here's Seriously, yeah.
Oh,
I was like, all right, worst case, I'll just
wow.
take a screenshot. At least I can take a screenshot of
And what's the big
the phone.
fleshy thing in
Yeah.
the corner of the picture? What is that?
That's my finger, I think you're
Ah,
seeing,
nice.
of
Yeah.
covering because I'm like maneuvering and gripping the phone and trying to press both buttons or whatever. I mean, just total frustration. Like how could this
Hmm.
be that I, of all people, I can't
Yeah.
capture a stinking photo with my iPhone? I mean, I was super
Wow.
frustrated. I don't know if anybody out there has had this issue with the camera control button, but I find myself like, I'll pick up the phone and then I'll be resting my finger on there. I'm just trying to take a photo. I'm not trying to adjust any
Hmm.
settings on the camera control button.
Yeah.
I use it as a shutter button basically most of the time. But sometimes seems like it's responding to me and I'm unintentionally adjusting the f-stop or whatever other feature happens to be activated. I don't understand that feature like I should. I don't know what, depth means or what these other features are that I'm supposed to be able to adjust here. I'm not that comfortable with that button and adjusting, like going from the depth control to the exposure to whatever it is. And I end up playing with that setting accidentally and probably taking a worse photo because, I changed something that I didn't really need to or mean to change.
Right.
And it sometimes delays me taking a photo, but I've never had this experience until yesterday where I
Right.
literally just could not capture a photo. So she says, "Do you want to use my phone?" I'm like, "Great. Okay. Plan B, let me use your phone." So I got the photo, but there's moments where you'll miss it, where if you just can't snap a quick photo, the moment is totally
Yeah.
gone. So
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. And
yeah,
you were
total
probably looking at
frustration.
that point for the FU stop
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
on
The
the on
FU
the
button on the
camera.
right.
So
Totally.
are you ever in those situations where you're trying to do something, you want to take a photo, all you want to do is take a photo, it's not working, you think maybe you have to restart your phone, and whoever's with you who's supposed to be in the picture and participate, instead of being on your side, they're working against you. There's like huffing and
Oh yeah.
puffing going on. This happens with me all the time. Huffing
Sure.
and puffing in the background.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go. And I'm like, no, this is a special moment. Like,
Right.
we have to stay till I sort this technology out.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I empathize with you completely. But of course,
Yeah.
like you had mentioned, you've got the fancy camera. I've got
Yeah.
the last year's model or previous year.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I mean and
yeah.
mine's fully up to date now, 15 or whatever it is, 18.5, the update installed or I installed it or whatever. It's
Hmm.
fully up to date. I have seen more issues recently than I've ever seen before. Once again, maybe since this phone came out, where it actually did a hard reboot recently where I was just on a website. A friend sent an essay he wrote. I'm on the site. I'm reading this essay. I click over to a different page. I start to scroll and I notice it's not responding. Now I'm swiping nothing. Okay, let me lock the screen. It's not responding to power button. Try to go to the home screen. Totally unresponsive. So couple seconds later, screen goes black. Apple logo comes up and it
Hmm.
reboots. So it actually detected that it was like unresponsive, but I was on a website, like a Squarespace blog or something. It wasn't
Yeah.
like I mean, it
Right.
just was really weird. And I don't know about you, but when that stuff happens where there's some kind of freeze or something, I'm thinking, did I just get malware? Like, that like my phone's behaving strangely. This is like
Yeah.
clients back in the day where they say, do I have a virus? But that kind of hard reboot on the phone makes me think, there could have been some drive-by kind of 0-day thing. I mean, it's possible, you never know.
That never occurs to me, actually.
You know, you're not
No.
worried about it. Yeah.
Well, I potentially could be worried about it. I think that for them to penetrate iOS without me engaging with some, well, if I was at Sam's OnlyFans website, perhaps,
Is he
or
still doing
Fansly
that? Yeah.
page,
Yeah.
he's got to make a little extra coin on the side. Sometimes
Yeah.
you get those, this content, if you proceed, it's not trusted. Do you want to
Sure.
proceed kind of thing, even on the
Exactly.
phone. So I think when
Yeah.
I go into those dark areas of the internet, I might get worried if it did some erratic behavior. But, like
Yeah.
you're saying, just reading a document, it's just, she
Yeah.
jammed up
Yeah.
the machine jammed
The
up and
machine
it
jammed
needed
up.
to, yeah.
Well, I mean, on that note, I got a little more ranting to do. And sorry to rehash this, Jerry. You can try to react like you did, like you're hearing it for the first time again.
Hmm.
So later that night, we come home, we make a little salad for dinner. We're sitting down to watch a little TV. Ashley grabs the remote. She brings up something on Hulu to try to watch, and Hulu gives an error message. It's unresponsive. Try again. You try again, doesn't work. Okay, if this doesn't work, they say try logging in again. So she goes to log in. It autofills my email address. Great, that's helpful. And then she presses continue, and she gets an error message, and she says, "Oh, I don't know, what am I doing wrong here?" I'm like, I read the message. I'm like, you're not doing anything wrong. It says missing error JSON structure. Like, what does that mean? That is a programmer error that no one should ever see, right? The user has no way to respond to that. They're going to call you and say, "Oh, I have a missing error JSON structure." What would I tell them? Reboot probably. Like it. So she's innocently asking me, like, what am I doing wrong here? And I'm like, this is not your fault. This is some stupid Hulu bug, right? So, okay, I show her how to, like, quit the Hulu app, double press that button, whatever the button is called. It looks like a little picture of a TV, and then swipe up, to quit the Hulu app. We go back in, it's still not working. Solution, watch a different show. Like that, I'm not going to sit here and troubleshoot my Apple TV. We're ready to eat dinner. Like, we're just going to watch a different show. So it just starts to occur to me, like, how is it that none of my stuff works half the time, right? I have the latest generation Apple TV. I have the latest generation iPhone. Everything's up to date. I restart my stuff on a regular basis. I maintain it as to the extent anyone should have to. The Apple TV app goes wonky and won't load. iPhone goes unresponsive. And so what would you tell a client? Oh, okay, well, it's been 3 weeks since you've restarted, right? We're rolling our eyes like, well, they should know better. They haven't restarted in 3 weeks.
What an imbecile.
What an imbecile. They didn't restart
your computer.
Yeah. And it's like, I've been doing this for 20 something years, and my advice is still, have you tried restarting? I mean, it's literally the tagline of the show. It's like, you're a computer. If you have to restart, go ahead and restart yourself. Right? You should know better. You're a computer. Maybe your CPU usage is pegged at 100% for the login window process, right? Maybe log out and log back in. You're a network, you're a router, you're dropping packets, or your memory is usage is too high. Maybe you restart at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Like, you're a computer, self-heal, figure it out. You have all the self-assessment you need. You shouldn't have to rely on the user to interpret what's happening to the computer and to take the right action. So this is my rant about, like, these devices should be sophisticated enough now, decades into the personal computer industry, to figure out that something's misbehaving and know what to do to intervene to fix it.
Right. So I have found, no, absolutely not. I have found more often than not, when you come into a problem like you were seeing on your Hulu error with the app, is to actually just do scorched earth on the app, delete the app, re-download it from the store. And I found more often than not, that seems to solve some of these weird customer client issues. So it's, forget about restarting the device. Now you got to reinstall the application. But that being said, I don't think it's just Apple and the fact that it's just Hulu running on the Apple platform, on the Apple TV platform. This is sort of niche, but I subscribe to this service which is supposed to aggregate my music and give me metadata on the music, and it's called Roon, R-O-O-N.
Oh yeah.
And so it's expensive, right? And I subscribe to that, and I subscribe to Tidal, so I can get lossless streaming. And I subscribe to this European music service called Qobuz, right? So with Roon, again, sitting down to dinner reminds me of this, Joe, I put in, the family, everybody's here. All the little chickies are back in the nest, at least till tomorrow. So, we're going to have a little background dinner music, right? So I put in, like, James Taylor. Oh, he's a nice guy. He doesn't, he doesn't get too crazy, right? Right, Sam? So James Taylor, right? And so I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. Now I've got all the connections right. I mean, I've got my products all synced up. So everything should be almost seamless. I've got it running it on a fast computer, running it off of the Synology, but it's like all this stuff, it does work sometime. So I put on James Taylor, plays one song, right in the middle of the song, it stops. So I get up, I hit the play button again, I sit down, and it stops. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
so I think what's happening here, just in the overall tech world, is everybody's constantly updating, either updating to fix
Yeah.
bugs or updating to be compatible because the platform
Somebody
that you're
else
running.
updated. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So everybody's like these hamsters in a treadmill where
Yeah.
everybody's trying to catch each other, and we're going nowhere. We're just
Right.
spiraling into
Exactly.
non-efficiency and
Yeah.
nothing working.
Yeah.
It's getting worse, like you said.
Did this
Yeah.
conversation start with an iOS app issue, Joe?
Oh man, yeah, Sam. You have to
Which
go back and watch the
conversation?
beginning
All
of
right.
this one.
I never
because,
listened
yeah.
to the show, but maybe
We
this
had
time
it-
No,
I
you
will.
got to watch this one because I played a live video of me like losing my cool when I couldn't take a photo with my iPhone using any method, like quit. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, couldn't take a photo, and then I had a problem with the Apple TV, and just
Yeah, this is
gave
what
up troubleshooting
why you have to
live.
listen to the
That's
show.
why- yeah.
Yeah, I have other shows to listen to. This one's bottom of my list.
But yeah, I completely agree. You get these issues where somebody's updating because somebody else updated, and
Mhm.
you're in a state where it's not working until everything's updated. But it's like, I mean, there's never just a state where like things just work well for like a long period of time, without glitchiness. Like it's just very rare.
I actually have something timely for this. It's not like related to necessarily your issue, but this was happening today. I asked you guys to test the forms fill out on a website.
Oh yeah.
And one of my clients, like web developers, created a new form for their contact form and made it live. And all of a sudden they're like, I can't fill in anything in the form. I started reaching out to you guys, other people.
Yeah.
Some people can get to it. Some people can't. And it all depended. It looks like it's dependent on if you're on 15.5, then the form works. And if you're not,
what?
Wow.
yeah. So I had her update, and then now she's working. And I have 3 different computers I tested. My up-to-date computer works. The other 2 don't. And now they're back at the
Weird.
drawing board going like, I'm not sure, like, what is it, a plugin issue with a certain version of Mac OS or what have you, but
Right.
multiple browsers, all this stuff. It's crazy.
That is rough. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
things don't work. It just goes back
No,
to
exactly. I don't see an easy solution to that. I mean, I can kind of imagine again the idea of like, if detect these various error states. Like if Hulu is going to throw an error like the one I mentioned earlier, what does it say? Missing error JSON structure. Like don't display that, instead like figure it out. Like, it should say like, hey, your app needs to be uninstalled and reinstalled, or, hey, why don't we try quitting and reopen it? Whatever. Like it should
What if
just
it
figure
said, "Oh
something out.
snap"? Joe, would that be better?
Joe's
Yeah.
favorite.
No, yeah, that would not be better. No, and then like if detect high CPU, like your machine's dropping, like your CPU is pegged or your memory is leaking or something, and restart that night. I don't want you to interrupt my work, so there's kind of a careful balance there. Like I don't want you just to quit at the earliest sign of trouble, but like there should be kind of a known state. Maybe use AI, to figure out like what situation is just best handled by a restart and preempted. Again, restart overnight, before I even notice the issue. With the router, dropping packets, it should reboot itself or update or whatever the case may be. Those things are a little bit easier. But in this case where you have so many variables, you have the platform that it's running on, you have the software that's connecting to some kind of online service that has its own version, an API version and whatever else. There's a lot of variables and it's not a simple problem, but really the industry just needs to do better. Like it just needs to be, maybe updates need to be coordinated better, or, like there needs to be like, fallback on a previous version, like test for the current version and the like last 2 versions, so that when you do update, if these people haven't updated, it's not going to break that connection or whatever. Like there needs to be better testing and just better like coordination. It's a coordination problem, really. There's too many variables not to coordinate.
I bet this wouldn't happen if we made Apple products in the United States. I bet if everything was made in the US, all this would go away.
Let's go political. I thought we
Dare
didn't
we
have the
say,
right size fingers for that or something, right? That's the main
talking
problem.
about updates, I don't know, we could gently segue as another example, but a little different, into what happened with, we all here love Agy, but their coordination with Malwarebytes.
Yeah, good point.
Maybe for the people who are not subscribers to the Agy platform, maybe we could just describe what happened.
Yeah, we started to see a pop-up, which we should never see. So I'm using the built-in integration of Malwarebytes, one view,
As am I.
front down, whatever it's called. Keep changing the name. If the updates break, just change the name.
Smackdown. I think it's called Smackdown this week.
Yeah, Malwarebytes Smackdown, exactly. So it's like an opt-in thing. You just turn on the integration with Malwarebytes. It's great. It's built into Agy. It deploys the software to all your machines, uses the right PC profiles. It just works basically. It's great.
Yeah. Do you use that, Sam?
I have. Yep.
Okay. So, one day I turn on my machine. This was, I think, was this like Friday or Saturday or Sunday or Monday morning or something like that. I get a pop-up. MB Engine Host App NCEP would like to use a new endpoint security extension. Okay, that's already confusing enough because the naming, right? I mean, that just
say JSON.
So
JSON structure missing.
Yeah, exactly. Like this part should be easy, right? Like if you're going to communicate with the user about some status issue, tell them who you are. Number one, like, hi, I'm Malwarebytes. I'm going to tell you about something super stupid and complicated, but like at least give me a user-facing name that I can understand, not MB Engine Host App NCEP. Okay, that doesn't help me. That just looks like a virus. Okay,
no, PC load letter.
Yeah, PC load letter would like to use new endpoint extension. Okay, then it says you can enable this extension in login items and extensions. Okay, the user is already completely lost, obviously, right? Then you get to this word. Endpoint security extensions run in the background and can monitor system events on your Mac. So thanks, Apple, for caring about my privacy. I do appreciate that. But if you're my user and you're receiving this, now you think something has gone drastically wrong. You think this is a virus. This is the thing that's trying to, help you avoid a privacy leak or a virus or whatever, right? But this thing is going to run in the background and monitor system events on your Mac. That sounds terrible. So the two options are okay or open system settings. Those are your choices as the user. Thank you, Apple. This is all bad news from the top to the bottom of this stupid error. And it's got the little file vault icon, or it looks like, or I don't know, that's what I'm calling it. It's the security icon. It's got a little safe gear, to turn the knob to keep your thing locked or whatever. It's a little picture of a gray house. All of this just looks bad. So Agy had reached out to Malwarebytes apparently weeks or months ago, indicating that they had seen some stuff in their testing. Malwarebytes was preparing these new versions to be deployed. I don't know what they did, but they just deployed something, and some number of people got this message. I had a total of I think 3 users reach out, of hundreds that are using this integration. So, probably more people saw it, I assume. I don't know. And probably most of them just clicked OK, which is already bad because, it's like they should be calling me, even though I'm glad they didn't, kind of, because it would have been a total inundation of requests or whatever. But so this shouldn't have happened. And Malwarebytes should have done more testing. To your point about coordination between Agy and Malwarebytes, Malwarebytes should have responded to Agy and said, I don't know, can you try it now? Or can you give us more information or whatever, but basically they just eventually released the update and this was the result. So, I mean, you saw this, Jerry, obviously. And what was your solution?
Jerry,
I think.
Can you hear us?
What the hell's going on? I think his endpoint remediation migration monitoring.
I'm back.
Events.
What happened?
Okay. I don't know what happened. We heard a ding-a-ling sound and then you went offline.
Yeah, I need to press the silence all unknown callers button.
I know that. I know that sound. I can't place
shortcut.
Yeah, is that just your ringtone or what? We don't know what that was.
It sounded like an app specific sound.
No, that was a ringtone. That was no, you know what that was? I believe that's Kevin Spacey's ringtone on House of Cards.
Really? Nice.
Yeah, at the time it was a cool ringtone, but
not so much
now. now it's not so much. It's like having the Woody Allen ringtone on your phone or something like that, whatever that might be. All right, so here we go. I got a shortcut. Silence. Well, you can't see that because I'm holding it up. Silence all unknown callers. There you go.
Well,
All right, we're
anyway,
good now, guys.
the question for you, Jerry, was you must have seen this. Did you see this issue, from any of your users reaching out about this error?
Well, my wife, first thing in the morning, pointed it out to me on her computer, and so I clicked OK. But then I had one client out of 200 reach out, and I sent them, some Chat GPT response like, "Don't worry, we've already taken care of it." And
same thing. You can click OK.
right, and the remediation, according to Slack and Agy support, is you just go into the web portal for SmackDown, the Malwarebytes product, and you uncheck the boxes that say web protection. Now, my question is this. There's different levels of subscription you can have with Agy, and I have the EDR or detection, remediation, at X amount of dollars a month per seat. Now, did it include that, or is that like another sort of add-on that when they deployed this, they just turned on that feature? So that's what I
think happened. I think that Malwarebytes kind of like enabled this new feature in the policy where it wasn't previously enabled. And I think because it wasn't enabled, there was no PPPC profile deployed to like basically just, not display that message. So Apple is rightly displaying a message for some new, whatever you call this thing. It's an endpoint security extension, is what it is.
Right.
Okay. So that is not, you never enabled it. So you shouldn't have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing to have where you could tell your client that not only are you doing identification and remediation, you're also doing web browser security, which is great.
Exactly.
Why not?
Right. Well, I mean, again, give me the choice to opt in. If Malwarebytes says, hey, we got this new thing ready to go, either it's free or it costs a certain amount, coordinate with Agy and figure out if I need to like put a checkbox in Agy because I guess we're paying Agy for this Malwarebytes integration, and they're kind of like the reseller of Malwarebytes, I believe. So I assume it would have to go through Agy for billing or whatever, maybe, or it probably coordinates already. Like if I turn it on and threat down, or smackdown, it would show in Agy. But the point is like, give me the choice, let me deploy it, when I choose, and don't display a pop-up to my users, right? Yeah.
Maybe it's a Dropbox philosophy where, all the boxes are checked to back up external devices in your iCloud library to Dropbox.
They benefit because you get then you use more storage, and then they say, oh, well, you're using more storage now. What like, no one could have predicted that. Now you have to give us more money. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Classic Dropbox procedure. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. A page from their playbook,
exactly,
as they would say.
Yeah, I get frustrated with all this stuff, as you may be able to tell over the years.
Yeah, you're hot under the collar today.
Oh man. Well, first of all, because I forgot to click go live. We did a whole. I did an early version of this rant, so I actually tested the rant out on Jerry first, and then I got to redo the rant. So you're getting the refined rant.
I just heard the revised rant, so that's good for me, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, a couple more things on this topic. So kind of relevant is this thing I quoted from John Gruber a while back. I read Daring Fireball like consistently for the last 2 decades plus, right? And I really think that I'm aligned with almost everything he says, including politically a lot of times. But anyway, he's talked about how there's this question of pop-ups. I mean, this happened really with like, I think Sonoma, well, probably even before that, but even carrying through to the present, there's more and more pop-ups, privacy questions, security questions, approve this, allow this. Hey, is it okay if this app does something it's been doing for 10 years? Can it, now we're going to tell you about it though. And it's like, okay, so this is a good trend from Apple to move in the direction of privacy, but like, what's the right way to notify the user? So John Gruber said, this is like months ago, interruptions in the middle of working are annoying. So notifications like this should only appear after a restart or login at the beginning of a work session. So he's talking about a Windows prompt in this case, because like Windows 11 or whatever version they're up to started to get some criticism about this as well. I incorporated this kind of advice before I read it from John Gruber into my restart prompt. So speaking of, again, the computer should know that there's an issue and just restart, or certainly prompt the user to restart. So once I implemented my like automatic prompt for restarts, I actually did see anecdotally issues be reduced over time. Like I have fewer people reaching out saying, "I don't know, it's not working," because it's just basically prompting them to restart, and they're either clicking restart, or at a certain point, I think I have it set to by default, like after 21 days, when it prompts them to restart, if they ignore it, it'll just automatically restart, assuming like they don't cancel it or anything. So the uptime, I wish I had like metrics before and after this, because the uptime is generally better, I've noticed, just anecdotally again. But what it does is it waits until the user becomes active, and then it displays the prompt, like within 5 minutes of them like resuming activity. So it's one thing if you just interrupt a user in the middle of their workday randomly, like they're in a deep focus and they've been working for 2 hours. Now they're sitting there typing, and your thing jumps up and steals focus. That's not ideal. But I figure at the beginning of a work session, that's the best time to prompt them. So to do that with Agy, I had to coordinate between like a monitoring item to detect that they have high uptime above a certain amount, whatever, and they've just become active. And then once that monitoring item is set, then that calls there's like a remediation for that. It's like a series of things. It's actually, I forget the implementation. It's kind of tricky, but it's all documented there in the community scripts and monitoring items and things, and facts, device facts and things. So anyway, I use that method to prompt the user only after they kind of sit down to resume working, because I figured that's kind of the best time to interrupt somebody. Upon restart, same deal. If you're going to display these messages, do it upon restart. So Apple does this, when you first log in after upgrading or updating in certain cases, or Malwarebytes pushes a thing or whatever. It's going to display a prompt. But the problem is, again, after you upgrade, like you've probably got a bunch of software that's already there that Apple helpfully is going to like notify you about. But it ends up being literally a stack of notifications. It's a very inelegant system. There's got to be a better way. Like, wouldn't it make sense just to kind of like, instead of prompting it like immediately as each app opens that wants to look for devices on the local network, or that wants to, monitor your screen recording activity, whatever. It should basically just like maybe have a grace period initially where it just allows the app to function as per usual, especially if this stuff, like, grandfather it in, right? If you've just upgraded and this has been happening for 10 years already because you've never intervened on this privacy issue before, have a grace period and grandfather these apps in for like 5 or 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, let's say, recap what the issues are. Okay, Dropbox wants to look for devices on the local network. And explain it. This is how Dropbox syncs quickly over the local network rather than downloading everything over the cloud. Okay, cool. So that's like one line item. Next line item, Malwarebytes needs to have this extension approved to do its thing, whatever. Like, give me a list in one single thing and give me like an allow button next to each of them, not a stack of like, shadowed, like, you've all seen that, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of an ugly, like, inelegant interface that just seems like, did anyone at Apple ever like look at this and approve that this looks terrible?
I would agree with that. And on top of it, though, I was just reading up a little bit about the latest updates or privacy notification from apps about finding devices on your local network. Yeah. And like that space, that's generic wording from Apple, is like for the developer to write their own language in, but a lot of them don't because it's not a requirement. So right. It's like, I just read up on this yesterday. So it's like, I agree with you, but maybe Apple should make that, because it's not up to Apple to, well, I mean, kind of is, but like it's the developer to say, this is what we're needing this for. And so maybe Apple should make that a required language when the developer has that pop-up that happens for their app, so that it's not just generic and we're not like, what the hell is this for? Like, why does Firefox need to find local devices on my network? I have no idea.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah,
well, they used to have that, right? They used to have a very strict human interface guideline manual book that all the developers needed to adhere to. And they kind of really changed that in the last decade or so. They've loosened the restrictions. So, you can slice and dice it a couple different ways, but all that formality or that adhering to one rigid way of doing things and delivering messages to the user was done away with, which was a terrific idea to have that in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Apple, I've read that. I mean, they have, I don't remember if this was the one, the ACM
The HIG.
facing one or the HIG. Yeah. But I remember reading one where they actually explained some like English grammar stuff like that I've used in my communications to users. Like they would say things like, this is one example that sticks out. If the user needs to wait for something to like a message to arrive before they do the next thing, don't say, once the message arrives, click such and such. Say after the message arrives. So like, colloquially we say like, once you see the yellow light, you should slow down and stop, right? They want you to say it a different way. Like they got that specific, to Jerry's point about like how to communicate with the user. Like they were very specific about basically, like even English grammar, like they wanted us all to sound good, but I think more to your point, Sam, like the requiring the text to be very clear, and also like they could require it from everybody. That's one way, but then of course that's just another delay that's built in because the developer may, what are they going to do? Stop Dropbox from working at all until Dropbox updates with like, and actually jump to the hoops of like including the text. Apple could just provide an explanation. Apple likes, this is me personifying Apple. They like to play dumb and be like, well, what do you want us to do? There's like millions of apps. I mean, it's like, okay, guys, I know you're getting reports from people's computer. And I know that like whatever percentage of people use Dropbox on the Mac, like I know the top 10 most common like apps that want to like look at the local network or whatever it is, and it's like you said, it's Firefox, it's Dropbox, it's like it's a series of very obvious ones. Like Apple could easily in like a weekend just prepare the text that's going to help every single user understand what's happening and why. Maybe even like have a mechanism for apps to request like to be opted into that, to where they're like, if you want your users not to have to see a prompt that's a scary message about Dropbox, agree to have your code audited by Apple, or agree to, I don't know, whatever. And you can request an exception and Apple can grant you an exception if you're Dropbox or this or that. Whatever legal things need to happen, you have your lawyers talk to each other where Apple doesn't take on any liability, but the user has a better experience. That's what we used to have on the Mac. The user used to have a better experience, Now it's like, well, we're just trying to protect your privacy. Like, you can't also have a good user experience. I don't think those things are at odds necessarily, like Apple would kind of seem to be presenting, to us.
I mean, on top of it, these local the ones I'm talking about specifically, the local network prompts, they're not even MDM manageable yet. So like Apple has released these prompts that can't be managed in a business sense either. So now all these business users are getting these things and creating IT tickets and doing this.
Exactly.
And I'm like,
we suffer.
I don't understand. Yeah, we suffer.
Users and IT people suffer, right? Apple, like they're just like, I don't know, we built the thing, but and then developers are like, Apple didn't tell us soon enough, or Apple, so like I don't know. I think that's a really good point, because this stuff comes out and then we find out about it when the 0.0 people are the upgrade and then complain to us. And
Jerry,
how come
Jerry's
we didn't
usually
have, Jerry's usually a beta user / 0.0. Like, why didn't MDM, like we're trying to do all the right things. We're trying to manage our clients' computers the way Apple wants us to. Why don't they give us these things? Like, give us a heads up and include this, build this in from the start. It kind of seems like we have to go to them and say, hey, we want ways to manage this. And they're like, oh, you guys want ways to manage this. All right, we'll start working on that now after 0.1 comes out. It's just like, it's like the Apple Intelligence stuff that came like piece by piece, like later, after the features were just released and everybody, like there was no way to like block users from signing up for Apple Intelligence in the very early days. We got that ability later. It just seems like there's always a delay for MDM stuff. Yeah.
I don't know why that is, because it doesn't really make sense.
It seems like it shouldn't have to be,
Yeah. I'm thinking more about, not to harp on this too long, but like I'm thinking more about what you're saying in terms of the message is showing up after a restart, or, you know, the user experience and stuff. And I'm also like going through my head thinking like, would it be helpful to have like an initial message, like in Notification Center or something, like, you're going to see some messages that say this, please heed these warnings or something, like, because people go through exhaustion of those pop-ups and they're just like, okay, okay, okay. And they don't really care what they're clicking on. So it is difficult. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been side by side with users, and they're clicking through that stuff as I'm trying to help them troubleshoot or problem solve. And I'm like, a lot of times it's like, no, wait. And they've already clicked off on it. And they're like, well, did you need to see that? And I'm like, well, we're trying to figure out what's going on with your computer. And you just dismissed all the messages that we just needed to see.
Sounds like my dad when I'm troubleshooting with him.
Yes. Yeah. No, I literally, I started reading the message and I'm reading it out loud to them. Oh, it says, and then it goes
and they've
away.
Clicked on it.
And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know what that was. Did you happen to read it before you clicked okay? You know,
a speed reader? Is that what you are?
Yeah. Right. There's a delay on the remote. Maybe they've already read it, you know. And also the other thing I've noticed recently, I don't know if something changed in like screen sharing and I think not so much splash top maybe, but when they move the mouse, I lose control. Like, I don't remember that ever being the case. Like, you know, we used to be able to share control more where, like, if I'm moving the mouse, it's going to defer to me, or at least kind of like equally kind of share control with the user. It seems like now when they start to just like, you know, I'm on their computer and I'm doing stuff and they start like moving the mouse just absentmindedly, like they just touch the mouse. I can't physically move the mouse to like click the thing I wanted. And I keep saying to them, if I could just drive for a second, if you could just let me drive. Oh, my hands are off. Okay, my hands are off the mouse, you know. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but like, I can't do anything if you're just like playing with the mouse, you know. But that seems to be a relatively new thing. I don't know.
And they deny that they were touching it, but then the problems go away. Right.
Yeah.
And
totally.
Then you have full control. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not touching it. Well, now you're not, because now it's actually working fine. You know. Yeah.
Now you called you on the carpet just now. Yeah.
Exactly.
I haven't had that situation, but I wonder if that is a thing, Joe. Just like maybe to prevent when someone realizes that someone remotely is doing something nefarious to like that.
I bet you're right.
Yeah.
I bet you're right. They must have changed the balance, you know, like to favor the user, like the local mouse versus, because it's pretty special. I mean, they can do stuff like detect a synthetic click. Did you guys? I think I talked about this on the show at one point.
Yeah, the synthetic clicks from way back when.
Way back when. But this came up again recently, and I don't remember if I talked about it recently, but it was actually I think it was Slack. The user had started a Slack screen sharing session where like they're on Slack with someone on their company and they're sharing their screen to their manager or somebody, and I'm remoted in using Agy Live Desktop, so it's effectively screen sharing. So screen sharing is the one thing I believe that Apple doesn't consider like a synthetic click in most cases, or remote desktop, but there were actually exceptions to that too. In these early conversations about remote desktop, you couldn't click whatever it was even in remote desktop or screen sharing. But in this case, I haven't seen that in a long time with screen sharing through Agy Live Desktop. And I was clicking something. Oh man, I can't remember what it was. And it was like error something I forget if they used the term synthetic click or something about like a click, you know, remote click being blocked or whatever. So I thought, wow, is that me? That's weird, you know? And so I saw that they had Slack running. I went into Slack and I saw they were sharing their screen. So I stopped the screen sharing and did it again, and it was fine. So there are still cases where these other third-party apps, you know, kind of affect that. So I think that's great that they're able to do that.
Yeah.
And I think they've struck the right balance. Let the user control the mouse. If like you said, if there's some, you know, hacker on the line, their only recourse until then was to unplug the cable. Like that used to be, you'd hear them say, oh, I just unplugged it, you know, like it shouldn't have to come to that, right? They should be able to just move the mouse and stop this person from, you know, doing whatever they're trying to do. But it's tricky for us.
Oh, I think we were all trying to get Stefan Oberle's message on the screen here, but yeah. He says, nice to finally see the face of the guys who I listened to since 10 years. That's amazing.
Wow.
He's been with us since the beginning.
Wow.
Very cool.
Yeah. Good to have
almost
you.
the beginning. Yeah. We're going on, is it 12 years? I think it's 12 years this year. This month, actually, in a couple weeks. So
crazy.
Half a century combined.
Yeah, it's probably a full century now.
So, Joe, I'm going to just put a little edit point here for you live listeners. You get to hear a little bit of behind the scenes. So we're getting a little bit of digi noise, but it almost seems like it's the cabling of your mic. Are your, what's
Weird.
happening there on the right-hand side of your...
His mic is invisible.
Well, no,
Yeah.
the cable that connects to the computer.
I can check that. We got to jump to the second show also. So we should just do a little wrap on this and then switch to the second show. I know we're this can be a short show because we started, a little bit late, or I forgot to click record also.
Okay, well, and you may want to do a restart just for good measure and just see if the whole thing goes away.
But then he's going to get all these new pop-ups after restart.
Exactly. I know. I don't think I saved all my work though. All right. So let's go to a second show. You guys want to just start it and I'll just dive in then if you can.
Well, let's wrap this up, please.
Okay. This is one of the things Stefan has learned from the show. Did you try turning it off and on again? Yeah, that is exactly what I will try doing as soon as we hang up and jump to show number 2. Thank you all for listening to another fine episode of Command Control Power, and we will see you again next week.
You may want